Hi, welcome to Tech Beyond Gender podcast. I'm your host, Meena Satishkumar. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different and interesting. I have a co host with me, and that is Pip. Welcome to the show, Pip. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mina, and thanks for the opportunity. It's exciting to be a part of this. Yeah, I'm a leader in technology and delivery, and I have a passion for connecting people with strategy enabled by technology. So it's really exciting to meet you and be able to get a chance to chat to you, Helen. Would you mind giving us just a little overview of who you are?
Thanks very much, Pip. I'm Helen Cuddy. I'm an engineering manager at Unleash, which is part of the Access Group. I've been there for just over a year and a half. I manage uh, three different teams. So I've got engineering leads for each team. And I suppose I'm also passionate about developing people to be the best that they can, which is something that I work on. And I also love technology. I love learning. So I think there's like so much involved with leadership. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Awesome, thank you. Um, what first sparked your interest in technology and engineering, Helen? And if you look back at that spark, did you imagine that this is where you would be today, that this would be your career path?
I'll probably answer the second part first, but definitely didn't see where I would be right now, based off myself as a teenager. So I think initially I was curious about like how things could be improved in general. So for example, I don't know if you recall, this is going to age me quite a bit, but like having a Discman. And I was like
Yeah.
going like, how come you only listen to one disc at a time if you're going for a walk? And I was trying to think of ways that we could improve that. And then of course they changed to like MP3s and the evolution of like Spotify and everything else. Like, but it was just always curious about like how things could get better going forward. And then for me, it was in school, I think my strengths were maths and physics. So I kind of thought, well, logically, what could I do with these skills or these kind of interests and passions? So um, I was torn between different subjects, of what I could do in university. So I ended up speaking to a lecturer from engineering, and he kind of gave me an overview of, well, if you go into this type of engineering or this type of engineering, this is what it's going to be like. And I think that kind of really shaped me and kind of made me go into towards, I suppose it was mechanical engineering. And yeah, and getting here, so I'm actually Irish. I don't know if you can pick up on my accent.
A little
So
bit.
so I didn't actually think I'd be on the other side of the world as a teenager. So yeah, so there's definitely quite a lot of changes in career paths as well that I didn't quite see coming. So,
I can
but wouldn't
imagine
change it.
when you started out that there wouldn't have been a lot of women when you
No,
went, here's what I'm going to study. You would have
yeah,
been
there
maybe
was
it.
5 women out of 45, and to graduate, I think there was 2 or 3 of us at the end. But yeah, so it was like a tough 4 years. So yeah. And then I felt like I didn't have enough, so I progressed and did a master's, a research master's for about 2 years. So
Yeah, wow.
yeah.
And those early roles, what did that journey with your early roles and your university life, what did that teach you that you then carry into today in your leadership and the way that you work?
Um, well, I think I was fortunate enough as a graduate, or when I was doing my master's, I actually had an intern. So I kind of
Mm.
started my leadership journey in that over the few months of trying to assign people, like we're trying to help somebody learn and give them opportunities of trying new things and testing different areas that they wouldn't have done typically in the engineering role, like or what you typically do in college when you're studying. So I think it was more of a hands-on opportunity. Yeah. So I don't know whether it made a little bit of a difference that I've got 3 brothers. So I was kind of used to kind of being the only girl in a way. So it was just normal for me potentially, but for other people, I could see it was kind of unusual. Or like this is not the typical path that people would have taken way back then. And I felt that in schools, we weren't really encouraged to kind of go down that path, which is something that I think they're beginning to do now, but I don't know how involved they are doing that.
Mm.
Actually, when I was over here, I got asked to help with O'Callaghan O'Callaghan Innovations. So they were kind of like teaching school kids the importance of engineering, or generally women or girls, about engineering. And I recall one of the girls at the time, or she had said like, would she still be able to wear makeup if she did engineering? And I just thought it was such a surprising, shocking question, but this is what people are thinking about it. This is what they're thinking of, that, you know, it's like a complete divide of the
Yeah.
expectation versus the reality. So
What,
yeah.
like, this is just a stereotype, right? Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
just high pressure on women to appear or look good,
Yeah.
applying makeup, being in a specific way, dressing up in a specific way, having your hair colored in a specific way or straightened. What
Yeah.
not? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
and that's fascinating that the flip side of that is potentially she wanted that and she was
yeah.
concerned that she couldn't do that in technology, right? That you can't just be
Yeah.
who you are in that kind of role. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and hopefully it made her change her mind or kind of open her
Mm.
perspective. But I think it's very brave to kind of ask these questions as well, like for them to kind of go like, "What
Yeah.
about this?" And I feel that it would be good if, like maybe you guys are more aware of like people going into schools and trying to encourage girls as well to go into engineering or technology, because I think there's a lot of work in the universities to kind of like encourage women that are already on the journey, but you kind of need to get them before that to
Mm.
start the journey as well. So
Do you think there's still a gap there in the I'm trying to figure out where you'd start that journey, probably even before high school, but certainly high school. Do you think there's still a gap in trying to grow kids, women's, girls' paths into technology and that kind of
yeah, so I think
world?
maybe from the age of 12 to 14 would be ideal,
Mm,
because I think
yeah.
that's when they start picking the different subjects which could be more relevant, and kind of seeing like, is this something that they're really interested in? So, and then just like what I did was like I kind of knew what my strengths were, what I really enjoyed, and then kind of it was easy. But like at the age of 14, there's no way I would have been thinking, oh, I'm going to be an
Yeah.
engineer. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And also, I used to always think about this. We might inspire young women to get into universities learning tech, but is our work environment designed to be supportive as well, right? At times, young women who probably are in senior technical roles might feel isolated because there are not many women around to support, or even being a mentor, or like you don't see women like yourself in like as an enterprise architect or a senior solutions architect to
mm,
aspire for those roles too, right?
yeah, yeah. I think it's probably only in the last 7 years that I've noticed that there's been kind of more focus on women in engineering in general. And I was fortunate enough when I was working at appliances to be able to go on was it a mentoring for women kind of program. And I had such an amazing mentor that she just like opened my mind and my kind of aspirations of what I could do, because I felt I was kind of staying within this box. And she was like, giving her perspective on things. And it was great to kind of hear that of like, like these are, how, like, for example, it's like, how can I influence people? Like, I wasn't quite sure how to approach that. And she would give her strategies. And then I was like, well, like, how about this approach? And it was just really nice to have somebody who's experienced to be able to kind of share their ideas, their experiences. And that definitely influenced me to kind of make a change within my career as well. So that's why shortly after that, I ended up moving to technology, but I don't know if she was aware of that.
Was your mentor in technology as well? Like, was she hands-on in technical roles?
She was a leader with a background in electronic engineering, but then she became a global manager. So yeah, so she was quite senior, and I think it was just really good for. I think there might have been 20 people on that program at that one time,
Mhm.
and you could see people like all like other women um, grow in their career as well,
Mm,
and seek other opportunities. And I was like, it was just absolutely phenomenal. I think so. That was definitely a
mm.
moving point in my career. So
Like Helen and Pip in here, right? Like there are so many capable women leaders in tech, but why are there not many hands-on and senior technical roles, right? Of course, women do a great job managing teams and providing strategic directions. But I do feel that there is a gap in the other side. I don't know about you, Pip, what your thoughts are on this.
So you're talking about actually like writing code, hands-on, deep.
Or like even strategy, like solution architecture or
Mm,
enterprise architecture, or like being like senior tech leads. Not many women are there, right? But like many
yeah.
highly capable women like yourselves are in managerial roles,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Mm.
interesting. I've been lucky enough to have met some amazing women that are in that technology kind of leadership. I'm more of the strategy connecting to enablement, right? But they're deeply technical. Um, and the breadth of perspective that they bring to the table, I think, is really rich. I'm interested in your experience, Helen, if you look at the difference in engagement and leadership.
Yeah. I think there's definitely no kind of, well, I suppose there are partial hands-on people in leadership within my current organization. Whereas in my last organization, we only had one principal female engineer and there was multiple principal, other principal engineers. So, so I think there's definitely a change in that. And I don't know whether it's like maybe the expectation that women might be better at managing people or supporting people. So that's why they kind of go into that role
Mm.
versus being more hands on and focused in that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and look, I guess just changing tack a bit, if you look at your journey, so you were healthcare, manufacturing, appliances, now you're software. So what motivated, was it the mentorship program that motivated the transition into software?
Yeah, I was kind of looking for a new opportunity. I'd been in the company for quite a few years, and it was quite a distance to travel as well. So I was trying to find a new opportunity out there. And there wasn't much in regards to what I've done previously. And I suppose my background is primarily in medical devices, so that's also very limited. So I just kind of looked at my values and I looked up at other companies' values and I was like, going like, actually, this is something that I can do. I've got these qualifications. I've got these strengths. So I applied for the job. And then one of them was actually you needed to be hands on, and another one was more of a people leader. So I suppose with my coaching background and my interest in kind of in that area, I got the opportunity to work in technology. So it was an extremely fast learning curve for me to change from like design controls to SDLC and the processes behind that. But a lot of it is also transferable and
Mm.
kind of just different terminology that people use, but the general same kind of concept. So it was an exciting move for me. Yeah.
Nice. And how do you think that that changed your leadership style? And then just add on to that, how do you think your leadership style has evolved over time and what has influenced that?
Um, I think I had been a leader in two previous companies before that. So I think in my second role, I was more of a people leader. However, having mainly men as my manager or my leader, I kind of thought that was the normal way to behave and kind of, I suppose, manage teams. And then I did the coaching course and I realized that I'm not really being true to myself. So I was trying to be a bit more authentic, a bit more real, connect with people more, and having like a decent relationship with everybody so that I could see their full potential versus this is the end job, this is what we're trying to achieve, and looking at their development. And through that journey from coaching, I also shared my learnings with them, and they were actually really excited to learn about that. And certain tools I shared with them, they'd share with their families and be like, "Oh, this makes a lot more sense now." So it was kind of a mix of a coaching, maybe a bit more coaching, and just getting people to believe their real potential, because sometimes they've got like their very limited beliefs of what they can do, even though they hear it from other people, but they need to change their own belief system to kind of realize what they can potentially do. Um, However, in my current role, and maybe in my last role, I've realized that I was more of a supportive person, and it depended on a situation. I could become more of a dominant person, more to protect the team. So it depends on what you're working on at the time. If it's like an urgent project, if you're trying to kind of complete certain things, if you're trying to develop people. So it does change quite a lot. There's no kind of, I'm not rigidly in one area. I do kind of change depending on the situation. So
Because at the end of the day, we're people first, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
100%. If you think back to having led some major transformations, platform changes, and those teams and in those situations that you've been in, what do you think your biggest leadership challenge has been so far?
I think the expectations that people have, and there's like lots of different ways to read that. So expectations from stakeholders, say to deliver a project by a certain date, without consulting potentially with engineering is like product think is a great idea, sales thinks is a great idea. And then we need to kind of adjust that, or discuss it and see what the minimum viable product would be. So it's just, that's a massive challenge. And it's not just within technology, it's within all companies. It's like, we need to go faster, we need to do something better. What's the best you can do? And I've learned this really good strategy from a previous coworker, who I actually admired as well. His name is Ross, and he had said that the likelihood of us being able to deliver by a certain date, we've got 60% confidence in that, because people don't like to be told, no, it's not possible. Whereas they can kind of work with numbers a little bit better. And then it's like, if we move it out by X amount of time, we've got 80% confidence to whatever. So you've got a bit more of a, um, strategic approach to having that discussion versus you must know and, like over and back. And I've learned that after one of the tech leaders had spoken, like explained why it wasn't possible for 3 months, but they still kept a certain date. So that was like a big learning. And I brought that into my current company as well. Kind of, if there's like dates being given and the expectations, is to deliver, it's like we need to kind of discuss what's actually possible. And remove other blockers as well. So
It's great because people will feel like they're dealing with tangible facts and figures, right? If you give them a number. Do you have
yeah,
a secret sauce in that formula to how you figure that out? Is there a formula, or is it a confidence factor based on, you know?
I think it's like based on the engineering's perspective of like, to
Yeah.
get this work done, how long is it going to take? I'm not going to say this person's job is going to take this amount of time because they've been doing that for however long it's been. So they are the
Right.
actual experts. So it's kind of consulting with them and kind of getting a feel of what's possible. And then sharing that to the product people or the stakeholders and just seeing, do they still want to proceed, or would they still like to delay it by this amount of time to get a better product, or what's actually possible from there. So
That's great.
yeah.
Getting the input from the people that are doing the work, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. What gaps do you still see for women in engineering and technology? And what do you think is improving, and what do you think we should focus on to make it better still?
um, I think I touched on it earlier on about the women in engineering, and it's about
Yeah.
kind of educating women a little bit earlier, like in schools, about the opportunities and what it actually means. So that will kind of have an impact in, like I think at the moment they say they want to have, more women in leadership, more women in these kind of roles. But if we're not kind of getting the girls early on to kind of study the engineering aspects, it's like you can't really kind of follow through on that deliverable. So I think that's an area that people could focus on. I'm sure another big topic would be pay inequality potentially. I don't have any facts on that. Like I kind of need to have the details, but like I still know that that's kind of something that a lot of human resources are working on to try and say, look, we're trying to be this much of a difference between men and women in this kind of engineering field. So I think that's another area where there's a gap. Um, and I think what we're really improving on is encouraging women to get involved in, like women in tech, having tech beyond gender, having these different kind of groups that people can network in, getting the support from others, having one conversation, it leading to a podcast, like it's just like, there's like so many opportunities. I've met some really lovely women by going to different tech events, and they're generally, free or, kind of just generally open to women and very, very welcoming. So I think that's a massive improvement. So, and then I think there's also a lot more focus on women upskilling as well, like women support networks within companies as well. Versus, I've only come across this maybe since I've done the women mentoring program a few years ago, but more and more women are trying to kind of like support each other. And I found that I did a Women Rising program, which was, I don't know if you've heard about that, but it was, it's Megan, well, I need to check her name, or maybe you can capture her name, but she does like these free coaching calls. But I was fortunate enough to be able to do the course. And one of the things that she mentions is that women tend to have a lot of biases because of what we've been exposed to for so long. And sometimes, unfortunately, women suppress other women because that's the behavior and that's the way we've kind of seen things growing up. It's like we need to be, this, we need to be that. So it's more of a competition between women, whereas we should be supporting each other a lot more. And I think maybe by having these smaller groups or smaller communities within companies, it'll help promote that. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting observation, isn't it? That
Yeah.
around women suppressing other women.
I see it so much, like especially in the culture where I come from. And I feel it is more pronounced there because of this like generational suppression of women, right? So it just gets handed over from generation to generation. I feel it's not just men who are the problem in the mix, it's also other women who suppress other women. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what tends to happen a lot is that men can also, whether they know it or not, they'll speak over women. And sometimes women get shut down a lot by this as well. And it's like they might have a quieter voice, but there's not many. I suppose sometimes men just speak over other men as well, but it's kind of like I know there's a power aspect, but then like the women kind of lose confidence. And is it Sheryl Sandberg had said, like, there should be a woman's voice at every table or more than one woman's voice per table, to kind of give their perspective. But I suppose it's just try to encourage people to speak up. And even if it takes another few minutes to share their point, it's really valuable to share your perspective. So,
Yeah, 100%. I think what I've seen too is relegating women to the admin, or can you organize the food? Will you, event management almost. I've
yeah,
felt
yeah,
that quite a bit, as opposed to um, some things that are actually more based on let's lead to the outcome, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, you get put in a corner and in a hole.
Yeah. Helen, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you moved from manufacturing to software, right? And you said it was quite interesting. You really enjoyed that shift.
Yeah.
So, what was that which really was like, wow, definitely love working in technology. This is really good.
Well, I suppose I'll clarify. So it was like typically development I was doing, so development for manufacturing. So and
Okay.
then moving to technology is the speed of how quickly we can develop things. So if we were, say, for example, from manufacturing perspective, if we're trying to design something, it could take 6 months to get a mold tool fully functional, and it's an extremely expensive tool, and you're building multiple, like maybe 10 at a time. So that's like, for example, 150K each, and there's problems and like all that kind of stuff. Whereas with technology, it's so much faster. Like the evolution now with AI is just amazing. Like I was using AI for all sorts of stuff, for travel, for kind of before we got like the license to use it at work. So I think there's like so many. Um, it just feels a lot faster and you can get more done. So maybe, yeah, I like to do a lot of projects. And yeah, so I think it's the excitement of being able to kind of make a difference so quickly.
Mm. And when you were talking, I heard something you mentioned about coach that you had.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about how we sort of tend to have the self-limiting beliefs and stories that we create for ourselves. And it's like it really helped you or gave you some tools and techniques to go beyond those limitations that we have created for ourselves. What is your one tool or resort to that you go to when you feel that you need some motivation in life and you feel that, okay, I'm not feeling quite there yet. What can I do next?
Um, if I need some motivation, I'd probably research it. Like if there's an area that I wanted to find out about, I'm not quite sure if I'm fully understanding, but I also like meditate a lot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so like morning and night time to kind of like help keep me calm. But if there was an area that I really wanted to go to, I'd probably research, look into podcasts or ask somebody that I admire in a technical workspace. So I've done that before. It was like, on like, how do you do what you're doing? And do they have any guidance for me, even though I don't want to go directly in that path? But I liked their approach, the way they were firm, the way they kind of, and this was like what one of the women I worked with before who was um, quite senior, and she was, yeah, just like having to be able to kind of share her opinion confidently and how to do that. So I'd actually ask people for advice, and people are always willing to kind of, I find, support or help out when needed. So I've done that in other companies as well, where I kind of I see somebody's doing something really well, and I'm like going like, oh, how can I improve on that, or what could I do differently? So go up and ask. People are generally quite open for that. So
Say if you don't have access to anyone and it's like you're coming back from work and you're just feeling so demotivated, how what would pick you up? You mentioned meditation.
yeah.
How will meditation really help in breaking our own created self-limiting stories or identities?
Cool. Um, I'm not 100% sure on how to answer that one actually. With the meditation, it might just kind of relax you and clear your mind and kind of giving you a fresh start.
Yep.
Um, Another technique that I used to do, because I was always listening to stuff and trying to learn stuff, and I think my mind was overactive. So instead of meditation, I'd actually go for a walk in nature, and give myself an opportunity to process things that have been building up for a while. So just out with my dog, in nature somewhere. And that kind of like lets things settle a little bit and can kind of potentially give me a few ideas. But I also find having a chat with somebody, or some of my friends are coaches as well. So it would have been a, hey, what are your thoughts on this, or what's going on? And they can kind of see right away that I've kind of created myself into a little box, and they'll be like, oh, like, they'll have a joke and be like, really, is that what you think? And yeah, that they'll pinpoint a few things, and I'm like, oh, of course. So it's easier to identify, I find, in other people, like where they have an issue. Not to say that it's easier to identify, but like I had one amazing engineer, for example, and his confidence was knocked down. He was going through a lot personally as well, and
Mhm.
he was working long hours, and he was getting all these praise from like these senior people and from me. And he was like, I don't believe it. And I'm like, oh, like, how come all these people are saying these things about you and singing your praises? Do you think that they're doing it for fun? Like, it's not for fun. It's like they're acknowledging you, but you're not listening to them, and you've got a different belief, and you don't think you're good enough. So the only way that you can change that is to change your belief. So yeah, so that was interesting time. So yeah.
Did he change? Did he end up changing how he felt about himself?
He did a little bit in some areas, like, so he did realize like why he was so valuable in this regard. But I think
Mm.
he just yeah, so I think it was like multiple conversations and also like suggesting that people might need additional support. Like I'm a leader, so it's like I'm like, we've got EAP through company. Feel free to reach out to them as well. They've got like really useful tools as well. So and like there's so many companies out there at the moment that do that. And that was actually a time, I think it was probably around COVID time. So
Yeah.
people were going through a lot of stresses as well and personal things. And so I actually reached out to EAP to get help for people that needed help within my team. And I learned a lot from that. And then I'd actually share that information back with the teams separately, like individually. So
Sounds like you have very keen skills of observation and you're able to apply that, learn and then apply that, and you have insight into the people that you work with and see.
yeah, I think it obviously takes time to kind of build up that relationship with
Mm,
different people and for people to kind of open up and be honest and be able to kind of, well, maybe open up a bit more about personal things as well. So it's like generally when you have a catch up, it's just like, how are they generally doing as well or what's going on? So like, I don't need to know everything, but like, are they, an okay space? So it's important to know that, or if they'd let me know if there's going through like family health issues and stuff,
mm.
it's like, okay, anything we can do to help with that, what do you need? So just being considerate and just being kind to people. So I think that's a good foundation to have. So
Absolutely. If you look back over your career, do you have a moment or a decision that you're most proud of in your journey?
I think I don't want to, there's probably a few things that definitely kind of made quite a change in my career. So one of them was going down that coaching route and kind of studying that for a little bit to enhance my leadership skills. So that was something that I was glad that I did. And I kind of wish in hindsight that it had been taught at school. A lot of this stuff is,
Mm,
when you hear it a few times, I'm like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. But you don't realize how meaningful it is until you hear it the first time. And yeah, so there's just like some things like that. Yeah, the coaching was big for me and it kind of gave me, I suppose, opportunities maybe to move into tech maybe a little bit more because I had those additional skills with people and kind of understanding people. And I could mentor my peers as well and help them in those areas. Um, there was one that I thought was great was like one moment was like when I realized the usability and the importance of usability when you're designing stuff, and that everybody uses things differently because they'll just
mm,
work with whatever they have. Like how many people actually use or read the manual? I don't. So you're just trying to figure it out and be like, oh, this might fit here, and things generally try to be as logical as possible. So when you see how end users use, like, for example, medical device equipment, not the implantable ones because that would be quite serious, but medical device equipment to help for breathing. And it's like going like, oh, they shouldn't really be doing that. But and realizing that it depends on the country as well. So it can be
mm,
very country specific. Who's your market? What are you trying to go for? If you're doing some studies in New Zealand, but your markets over in Europe, it's like they've got like a totally different approach of how you go and do things, like from a marketing perspective, like in Germany it will be very different, maybe in the UK to Australia, New Zealand. So how are you going to understand that? So it's like really about understanding the end user and what they will like and what's going to be of benefit of them. And it's not always like the engineering perspective of, oh, this makes logical sense to me, so they should understand it. It's like, well, if people are in a stressful situation, they just want to get things done as easy as possible. So I think usability is big. So
yeah, absolutely. And if you, what advice would you give to women who are early in their tech or engineering careers and they're not sure about what their next step should be? What advice would you give them?
um, I think this is also a very interesting question, and it's something that I probably touched a little bit on earlier on. Is speak to somebody that you admire, speak to somebody that you think you want to follow in that kind of direction. When you hear what they do, it might be a realization of like, oh, actually, I had a totally different understanding of what it was going to be, or this is what I thought it was going to be, and have that discussion with them and be like, oh, this is actually where I think I'd like to go, and they might be able to kind of point you in the right direction. And realizing that because you've worked in one place, if it's your first company and you feel like you don't fit in, or there's something not quite right, speak to somebody. I met quite a few people from the university trying to encourage women in engineering, and somebody had reached out to me to see if I'd be open for a phone call. And she was working as an engineer as an intern, but she was isolated, so she didn't really get to interact with the team, and she was only put on this for a certain amount of time. And she felt that the salespeople were a lot more social and they would have conversations with her. So I said that might have been that one specific company. If you go into another company and you go through all the different engineering teams, they'll probably all operate slightly differently. So not to kind of limit your beliefs on that one kind of area. So reach out to people, reach out to their friends, and well, yeah, maybe somebody that's maybe more experienced, and have a conversation and help them along the way. My concern at the moment would be for the younger graduates is because of AI that there's possibly limited opportunities going forward. Um, and I'm not quite sure how to overcome that one, whether they kind of do just any kind of experience will help them, I suppose, to begin with. But I do feel that it's going to be a little bit more challenging. I don't know if this one should be shared for them. If you're trying to inspire people, sorry. I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I think often it's about learning how to work with the AI and how to
Yeah.
leverage AI for creativity, as opposed to being so concerned about it replacing you, right? I don't think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
easy. But I think there is a lot of opportunity that can occur. The challenge
Yeah.
is seeing that, right? And how
Yeah.
do you evolve with it? It's moving so fast.
Yeah. There's no way to keep on top of everything. But I feel that a lot of the engineers that have a little bit of experience and they are learning AI and adopting or learning the tools and trying to
Mm,
optimize aspects, it's more for the people that may have less experience, that are studying potentially. How
yeah.
can they kind of get into the business world or into technology in a company?
Mm,
So I think it's really important that they kind of learn as much AI skills as possible, work on some projects, be able to kind of display that, and hopefully there'll be openings for in companies.
So now looking back at yourself, Helen, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Uh, I wish I learned more earlier about people's behaviors and understanding. So whether it's the psychology and the coaching, because I think there's a chance that I might have done more sooner. But because I've only been exposed to it in the last few years, and I'm really grateful that I have come across that. But um, having like some coaching, and just seeing what your potentials are, looking at your strengths, um, yeah, and yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there. So just believe in yourself.
You mentioned about coaching quite a few times, right? So
Yeah.
what style of coaching you went to? Was it in New Zealand or overseas? And what was your key takeaway from the coaching?
Um, I did a foundations course over in Melbourne and I was self funded. So I went over to find out a little bit more of how to become a better leader, how to become a better
mm,
person. A lot of friends would have reached out to me when they were going through difficult times. And I always felt I wasn't quite sure how to deal with it. You know, like I'd listen, but I wasn't sure how to respond. So one of the basic tools that I really love is disc profiling. So I'm not too sure if you're familiar with that. So it's like dominance, influence, stability, and compliance. And having that understanding within a team can change people's communication styles, understanding of each other, and motivate people as well. So that was like one of my core kind of things to use. And there's lots of other tools as well that you can use.
mm,
But I worked in one team, and there was, I think, eight guys in it, and there was one dominant personality. And it was just kind of, I suppose, quite striking or quite different how he behaved compared to everybody else. And people took offense and they were a bit afraid. And I got a lot of feedback that, he was very blunt. And he didn't mean to be that way. So when we actually did the course together and I had my friend come in and coach that was the initial exposure to DISC. He thought everybody else thought the same way. So he didn't understand how he was different. And he thought people should know these things already. So when he saw how everybody else felt and people kind of opened up, it kind of opened him up as well. And he kind of changed his behaviors. And he realized that, like it's some people don't like the way he was speaking to them. Like, not that he meant to offend them, but he was just quite a direct person. So now when I'm working with people, I kind of go like, oh, they're that kind of person. So I know how to communicate better with them. Like they're dominant, they need to know facts. I'm not going to have a waffle conversation. And then just like trying to influencers are more into different, people orientated things. So just try to encourage that and like work towards what their style of communication is, so you can kind of have a more productive outcome overall. So I think that's one of the basics that I've learned from coaching. So
Nice. It's very interesting. I'm very keen to know more about exactly what you do in that particular technique.
I was going to say, have you checked out the scarf model?
yes.
I think that's mostly when it comes to change, but I'm in love with the scarf model at the moment.
So what is the SCAF model, Pip?
It's about your reaction to change. I'm just trying to think. So it's status. It's you don't pigeonhole into one necessarily. So status, certainty, autonomy, relationships, and fairness. So it's all about your response to change and where you might land on the spectrum within those. And then once you understand where someone might lean into, so if they are really concerned about a sense of fairness, then you can then understand how to support them in change, but also just in working with them, I think, too, and understanding their behavior. It's an interesting model.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm not sure if you've also heard of Enneagram.
No.
Yeah, so there's
I feel like we need to have an offline. Let's talk about all of that.
Tell us
that's
more,
one of
Helen.
that's one of my other side interests. But there's like a New Zealand and Australia kind of meeting every 6 weeks, so they kind of catch up and they kind of discuss it, and they have like share different subtypes and different personalities, and so they really go into it in depth. But most of them are actually coaches, whereas I go to listen and learn and to hear people's feedback, and then I share my take on it as well. So it's like an Enneagram program. So
that would be awesome.
And I got introduced to that actually at Appliances as well by one of the, I suppose, learning development people there. So, but I only have like a snippet of a view versus the full understanding. So typically it's like how you deal with different people or how to kind of motivate people, so it's more in depth than DISC. I think DISC is good for me because it's like quite a simplified versus things like Myers-Briggs and stuff, which is 16 personalities. So I can't stand that far. So yeah, keep it simple where possible.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. This talk sort of highlighted the significance of coaching and how little I know about it. So cool. Thanks for the time, Helen and Pip. Pip, it was so nice to have you here as a co-host. Thank you for your time, making time this evening. And thank you, Helen, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It was really lovely to meet you, Helen.